that gets smaller and smaller. I guess it must be getting closer to Christmas, huh? Well, I'm sure that players are probably ready to be excused tomorrow. We did have a good work day today. Sunday was a good day for us. Yesterday, probably not what we wanted in terms of the overall mental intensity, but I think when you practice this many days in a row, it's kind of hard to get everybody going every day. And I think it's necessary work that we need to do to be ready to play in the game, especially with the fact that when you get to the bowl site, you don't have as much meeting time, you don't have as much time to install things, so you really want players to sort of have a good sense of what is expected of them before you ever get there, and then just practice it and rep it a little bit more after you get there. So I think all in all, the work has been good. We had a few guys missing today. We got a little stomach virus going around. We had about 5 guys that were out with that today, um, and it's fairly contagious. So when guys have it, we sort of keep them away rather than letting them come to practice. Um, so there were a couple guys that were sick. Chris Jordan was actually excused for personal reasons. Um, Chavis Williams got a little head injury yesterday, nothing serious. Uh, Probably be back tomorrow. Dre got stepped on his foot yesterday in practice, and hopefully he'll be able to do some things tomorrow. If not, he should be ready to go when we get to the bowl site. So those are the only things that we really have to report from an injury standpoint.
Coach, there have been times this year where I know you've addressed it and talked about playing 4 quarters and finishing a game and maybe about the motivation. How do you address that? How do you address the motivation for this football team going into the bowl, and how do you make sure these guys are motivated? And conversely, can you comment on Michigan State and their motivation potentially going in the bowl, being shut
Right.
out, and their record?
Well, I think that um, everybody sort of puts the responsibility um, on the coach to motivate the team. Um, in most cases, you usually can succeed in being able to do that. But the bottom line is it's got to be important to the players. And our players were obviously disappointed after the last game. We didn't finish the game. We played against a very good team who's going to have the opportunity to play for a national championship, and I certainly don't want to take anything away from them. They showed tremendous resiliency in coming back in the game, but um, we didn't show the sort of tenacity that we needed to be able to finish what we'd started. And in several games this year, that's been a little bit of a problem. And I think, what kind of ownership um, are people going to take to play their best game, to try to the legacy of this team sort of rests to me on how they finish the season. And, I said that before the last game, and I'm saying it before this game because this is the last game for sure against a very good team, a top 10 team, and who's going to take ownership for it. So a lot of it has to come from within. I mean, external motivation, which even me, I'm external motivation to them. It's got to be something that they want. It's got to be important to them. Um, and sometimes bowl games are a little bit more difficult unless there's a challenge for the players. And certainly we have a challenge in this game with the kind of team that we're playing who's won 11 games. And this team has shown a tremendous resiliency and tenacity this year that they have. They've come back in a couple games and won games from coming from behind and finished games strong and look like they have the kind of leadership and confidence that you need to be able to do that. That's something that we've tried to develop with the maturity of our team, and hopefully it's getting better and better, and hopefully we'll be able to um, have the sort of tenacity that we need, persistence that we need to be able to finish and play for 4 quarters in the game. And but again, I think it's got to come a little bit from within them. We'll certainly do everything that we can to prepare them. We'll certainly do everything we can to try to motivate them. But at the same time, at the end of the day, they got to want to do it too.
Coach, given their ability to come back in games they have several times this year, what goes into the anatomy of a comeback, and what kind of things have to go right?
Well, I think that it's all about players. I think it's all about, belief in players, confidence in players. Our team last year, did a good job of finishing games when they had to, stopping people in 2 minute when we had to, making 2 minute drives if we needed to, whether it was before the half or whenever it was. I think it comes from leadership. I think it comes from belief. And I think it comes from, deep down want to do something special, with your team. And it's got to mean something to everybody. And I think, when you have maturity on your team, that certainly helps. Because most of the time when you have maturity, you have good leadership. And I think all those things probably inspire people as much as anything to be able to come back in games because it means so much to them and they have so much pride in terms of wanting to win and to prove something. So, I'm certainly not going to be satisfied unless, our team, plays its best game of the season in this game.
Secondly, the future for Rob Zell seems like he wants to be a coach. What do you see in terms of him and his ability to coach in the future?
I don't know. If I was him, I'd go impersonate people, probably make more money, probably have a better career, probably have better job security. I mean, I probably wouldn't have to work as many hours. Probably wouldn't have to work on holidays. Our anniversary was the 18th, and I'm not sure I even saw her that day. So my recommendation would be, if he's got talent, he ought to use it. He would be a good coach, though. I mean, I'm kind of kidding. He would be a very good coach. He's a bright guy. He understands the game. He's played quarterback. Does a really good job in practice every day of helping organize, things on the field, for the scout team. And he would be a very good coach. He's a very high energy, has a lot of positive energy that affects other people, I think, in a positive way. So I certainly think he would be a very good coach.
Couple questions, Coach. First, one of Michigan State's top two receivers, B.J. Cunningham, broke his foot. He'll miss the game. How does that affect things, if at all, for Alabama?
I don't really think it affects, they've got really good skill players. They've got 3 or 4 receivers that I think when you look at third down, they had 3 guys that all had almost the same number of catches. So it's not like they have one significant guy that if that guy were missing, it would make a huge difference. They use a lot of different skilled people and a lot of different ways, and they've all been pretty effective and pretty consistent. I think the big thing is the quarterback, has played really well this year, and that's made a big difference for their team.
I also wanted to ask you about the AFCA proposal that, whereby a coach now or an assistant coach can be suspended for a game for a secondary recruiting violation. Given that secondary violations can be inadvertent so often, does that place you guys in a near impossible spot?
Well, I think that this is my opinion. I don't even know much about this. I don't know much about the rule. I have not read the legislation yet. It hadn't been given to me. Mike Ward usually kind of goes over that stuff, so I haven't really got it. But I thought originally in our discussions in some of our meetings that, this was a rule that was going to be sort of implemented for people who had multiple secondary violations. In other words, there was a disrespect for the rules shown by someone continuing to do the wrong thing. It wasn't like you have one thing that happens that's bad that could be construed and you can get suspended for a game. I think it hurts the players, when you start suspending coaches. So I'm not sure I'm in agreement, but I'm not sure that I have a solution because we do respect the rules and we do want everybody to abide by the rules. And if this punishment is what's going to change someone's behavior, then I think it's good. But if it's not going to change anybody's behavior, then I don't really think it's good. So I don't have the answer to that question.
Bobby Williams has been on your staff 4 different places. What makes him special, and especially what does a coach who's been a head coach bring to the staff as an assistant?
Right. Well, Bobby's really first of all, about as fine a person as you're ever going to find. He's a hard worker. He's a bright guy. He knows the game, and he's got a lot of experience. And he's very good in terms of chemistry on the staff as well as dealing with players. I think players like him. He's one of those guys that can get on a player and they don't take it personal, and he does a good job, and he's done a good job for us on special teams as well as coaching his position. So he's been in various roles for me, whether it's running back coach, wide receiver coach, special teams coach, and has a lot of pride in his performance and has always done a really, really good job. So we're pleased and happy to have him on our staff.
Also, back in the summer, this team was preseason #1. You seem to want to try to temper that and get people a little bit more realistic with their expectations. But given that, has this team underachieved, overachieved this year, or been about right?
Well, I don't know. I can't really answer that. I'm not satisfied with the accomplishments that we made as a team. But I don't know that unless you win every game and win it all, that you're ever really satisfied as a coach with what you achieve. At the same time, I think this team has made a lot of progress throughout the course of the year, and just didn't finish a couple games and didn't play very well in one game and didn't finish 2 other games the way we needed to have success. And I think that, some of these things are opportunities for them to learn and grow and get better. But given all that we lost from last year's team, all the good football players, 13 players that signed professional contract, I don't know how many of them made pro teams, but 7, 8, or 9, I forget. But a lot of good football players, a lot of young guys taking their place. I don't know that, maybe the preseason ranking was based more on what last year's team did than what this year's team probably deserved. And now this team has gone through a pretty full body of work of 12-game season, and they have what they deserve. You reap what you sow. So we're not satisfied with that. But that doesn't mean that the team underachieved. It means that I wish that we could have done better in terms of developing the kind of maturity that we needed, and perseverance and competitive spirit to finish and play with more consistency.
There's a TV report out of Orlando that Alabama's doing a little work on the fields where you're going to be practicing, Dr. Phillips High School, I think it is. Do you know anything about that and what's being done?
Well, I think the facilities that we have there are good facilities. We always try to upgrade anything that we can, especially for player safety. So, we said that we would work on the fields and also the locker rooms for the sake of improving them for our use, which the school will benefit from because we're not going to take them with us. But we did that last year. We had some work done on the fields where we practiced, only because, that's certainly a way that, somebody can get injured if you don't have, quality practice field. And these are high school facilities, so they've been used all season long. Just like our fields are not nearly as good now as they are, back in August and September because of the use. And so, we try to upgrade them just like we're trying to make these safe for our players.